Renon, Erima, Ragon, Perifanton, Aerion, Floeta, Peridron. Αστρατώντα σέλας νεφαίο παταγοδρομών αυλή φρικόδι παρίνι ανήκει των θεών αγνών θεών αγνών θεών αγνών.
So the question is, why would ancient Greeks make such a construction same time when composite bow was present? Because this is what we know for sure. Existence of a short, very effective composite bow is an undeniable fact, probably introduced to Greeks due to their interaction with an East. So let's try to explain this, and of course this is only an assumption because there is no written evidence or documented proof about this style of weapon, at least as far I was able to find. But frankly, I consider the real tangible application much more reliable than any theoretical documentation, because as a practitioner, by actually building those things, you come to certain conclusions. Okay, so let's say I'm an ancient Greek citizen, and I will definitely at some point of my life I will fight, because this was something totally usual. Every male was obligated to participate in any kind of warfare if there was such, and of course you will need a weapon to fight with. In this point we need to understand some things. Firstly, to secure yourself a reliable weapon that will protect your life, that will allow you to come on a top in a conflict situation, this was not that easy task, at least when we are not talking about a piece of wood or a rock. If we are talking about crafted weapons, it was not that easy. Weapons was not accessible to everyone, and the quality and the durability of such an item depended a lot on your social and financial background. Second, weapon construction had to do a lot with the society values and standards. So let's see the Greek society of those times. Even if we can see the usage of ranged weapons such as slings and bows, those was not their primary weapons. They preferred swords, shields and spears, and this was because of their conception of glory and recognition they would expect from their society. Close-hand combat was highly respected because it was underlying individuals' physical strength and endurance, and also the Greek mentality was mostly stand your ground and fight, stand your ground and die if needed. And dying in the battle, defending your city was actually the greatest honor a man could ever achieve. So there was no hit and run, which is more East culture style of war that probably favors more the usage of a bow and generally ranged weapons. So in Greek society, mostly you would not use a bow as your primary war weapon. But anyway, we still have archery with a long tradition in Greek society, and thus construction of bows. So as I said, let's imagine I'm an ancient Greek citizen and I decide to build a bow to use it in any kind of war I have in front of me. And I don't want to make a tool to have some fun, a tool for competition or to enjoy the peaceful aspect of an archery. This was a matter of life and death. What I need is to make a weapon for war, weapon that will be able to pierce heavy bronze armor of my enemy. We are talking about a bow 80 pounds and more, 80, 90, 150 pounds bow. And since, as we said, bow is not my primary weapon, I will try to build it in a simple way, without consuming time and materials. So I would probably go for a simple design, something like English style longbow, massively heavy, relatively easy to build. But there is one major problem. The issue with the longbow is that it's too bloody long. It's not handy, you cannot easily transport it from place to place. It's not easy to run with it, to ride a horse with it. It is simply not that convenient. And also you need much more material to build it compared to a short bow. So I consider that a short bow would be much more useful to me. And I know of an existence of a composite bow. But the issue here is that the short composite bow in a such strength I'm aiming for, it's extremely difficult to be built. It needs a very skilled craftsman, again in a society where most of skilled craftsmen would be mostly occupied by building shields, spears and swords. Also, a very big issue here is that it's extremely time consuming. If you consider the usage of a known materials such as horn and sinew, there is an extremely long drying time, and we are talking about months. So again, this is not the best solution for me. I could of course go to a short style bow like the Native Americans did use, but the bow of this kind were not as strong as I need. They were good for hunting, they were strong enough for hunting, even large animals, we know that. They were, I don't know, like 50, 60, maybe 70 pounds, but again, not as massively heavy as I need to fight a soldier that is covered with a metal armor. So I decide that the best solution would be to have a kind of, let's say, short longbow, which means the same design, the same simplicity, only short. But here I stumble upon another problem. If I take a longbow, let's say 150 pounds strong, and I cut it in half to have a short version of it, the same piece of wood that I was previously able to bend and draw, it is now totally impossible to bend, because now in the same thickness necessary to produce those 150 pounds, but it's too short now, so I cannot even brace it. And even if I theoretically could brace it, it would for sure broke. So what I do, I add leverage. I add leverage not the usual way we know, where the tips are pointing outside towards the target, because it would create a recurve style of bow, where all the pressure is concentrated in a small portion of a limb. And again, even if I would be able to bend such a thick piece of wood, again this would cause a breakage. In that case, having no other option, I decide to add a leverage in the opposite way, pointing towards the archer, meaning inside. This way, with a very little bend, I have preloaded weapon that is extremely heavy. Because of a leverage, now I'm able to draw it, and where in the 23, 24, let's say max 25 inches, I'm already producing tremendous power. So I don't have to concern myself about the extreme draw length of 28, 29, 30 inches to reach the desirable poundage, which would snap the bow. And so I have a short weapon that is doing a damage I need. It is handy, it is easy to transport from place to place, and it's very easy to build. Having a seasoned piece of wood, you can build this kind of bow, let's say, within 3 days. From previously drying process that would take months, you have now shrink the production time of a weapon to 3 days. And even if you use a rawhide to reinforce the back of the bow, still this will be like 3-4 days and you have a weapon ready to fight. So probably this was the logic behind it, as far as I was able to understand or to find any supporting material, indication or any sort of information. And all that came with a practical research where I was constructing those things again and again in a different variation, experimenting with the different versions. So this is probably the most logical explanation, which kind of makes sense, at least to me. Why would ancient Greeks build such a construction, such a style of bow?
Αστραπέ τον βία παγαίνεν τη βασιλεία μέγιστον ευμενέοντα φέρει γλυκερή διότι ο τελευταίος τελευταίος